I've just jumped on and hit record without really having much of a script or many notes, so this could be a long one. That's a word of warning for you straight away. This video is all about F1 season reviews, a story about my F1 season review listings getting removed off Letterboxd, and hopefully an ode to the F1 season review, and anything other than that is going to be a very slight tangent. So let's get straight into it straight away with my history of the Formula 1 season review DVD. Well, these were the main three I had as a child, as a DVD set from 07, 08 and 09. And when you look actually from resale and eBay and all of these second-hand sites, this era, I think probably these three actually tend to be the three that are seen most. So I'd gauge from that these are the best selling. So we've got 2007, Kimi made it at last. 2008, luck does not come into it with Lewis Hamilton. And then 2009, not in a hurry, Jenson Button's title winning season, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching these as a young child, and I still revisit them from time to time now. And it was my goal to see if I could get any from charity shops, if I could stumble across any cheap, and I did get one which I was very happy with, particularly because it was a Blu-ray as well. So this again was a long time ago. I picked this up, the 2011 review on Blu-ray. He's done it again the second year where Sebastian Vettel won his title, and spoiler alerts, I guess, if you don't know what happens during this season, but that's that. And then I also had for Christmas one year, it might have even been 2016 actually, I had the official review of the 2016 FIA World Championship. They did their best the season that Nico Rosberg won his title. Now, I know certainly these three, 7, 8 and 9, were narrated by Ben Edwards, who's a brilliant F1 commentator. You're going to get a lot of nostalgia for sort of the late 2000s and early 2010s Formula 1 in this video, because Ben Edwards, when he was at BBC, French kiss, absolute perfection as a commentator. And I think 2011 introduces Will Buxton as a narrator as well. You've got a mixture of Ben Edwards and Will Buxton. It's been a long time since I've watched this 2016 one, so it might be just Will Buxton potentially on this. But those 5 years were as vast as my collection got. I'm going to touch on these actually before I tell you what job lot I got for a good price. So I'd put everything in one pile before the video started. Possibly not the best thing to do. I picked these up really cheap from a charity shop. I think there was something like 50p each. Haven't watched any of them yet, and I think that was about 2 years ago, so this might give me a kick up the backside to do it. But we've got a history of motor racing from the 50s, a golden decade. The same with the 60s, a very British era. I think that's Jim Clark there. Yeah, it's Jim Clark on the cover of the 60s one. We've got 2 reviews from, we've got 1976 and 1980. These are much shorter than the 2000s reviews were, so this is Hunt for the title. And then 1980, double first, Williams and Jones. So it was really cool to get some of those earlier ones, because I think they did these back in the 90s, but a lot of them were on VHS, and I certainly haven't got any VHS technology. So unless you watch them online, and I think they are available online, some of those 90s ones, I have downloaded a couple of them, but unless they're available online, you're not going to get them, because they're just available on VHS. They have reissued, I think Duke Video have reissued all of the season reviews with some rather crap artwork, I have to say. Really generic artwork. Certainly not as nice as like these designs, which they went with for a few years. The 2 squares at the bottom, or square type shapes. I'm never very good at shapes at school, all right, but that was really nice artwork. And then I think it was quite generic. You'd have like F1 at the top, one picture, and then the year at the bottom. It just didn't really differentiate. F1 Review 2000, F1 Review 2001. It's what I really love, the names of these reviews, and that's something that actually later on they decided to go away from, which is a real shame. What was my thread? See, we've only got a couple of minutes in here, and I've completely lost the thread altogether. Yeah, so they reissued those, so I think these are, so this is a Duke DVD from 2004. So I think this might be the reissue from the like 2010s, 2020s. I think they were reissued kind of as part of the whole F1 rebrand that took place with Liberty Media taking over and trying to make the most of that, I think. But that was where my F1 season review collection ended. And then I saw this lot very cheap on eBay, or it was very cheap at the time. And I got very excited because I put a bid in. I put a maximum bid of a lot more than I paid. and I got it for cheap. And I think the reason is because that eBay listing had only got the one review as the first picture of, so people may be scrolling through thinking, oh, I'm just paying for one review. And I think the title of the listing was just F1 season review, and I was a little bit nervous thinking, as this person put this up, maybe wanting that price for each of these, but I took a chance. It was that cheap. I took a chance. So I'm going to go through all of the reviews that I got, and then that gives you a little bit of time to think about, I wonder how much he paid for all of these. So, in chronological order we have, and I'm really excited about these. I'm that excited that I bought these about 10 months ago, and I haven't watched any of them. So, we have the 2004 review, Michael Does It Again. I think they ran with this artwork in the early 2000s, at least for 4, 5, 6, and before that. And then we've got Fantastic Fernando, his first title win in 2005. That now means that between 2004 and 2016, the only one I haven't got is 2006. It's a shame. So also in this we've got Sebastian's Coming of Age from 2010. This was the last of the three to use this cover art, which I really like that cover art. We then went to, this one is actually a pretty good cover art as well, from 2012, Seb on there again, so if you don't like Vettel, you're going to get a bit more of Sebastian. 2013, Who Can Stop Him? 2014, which I think is a pretty poor title, It Was Fair. I mean, come on, you can do better than that, surely, for 2014. Curiously enough, I've just noticed this going through. Yeah, so 2011 is 2 discs. That's the same for 07, 08, 08, 09 and 10 as well. But then for a year or two, they went back to just 1 disc by the looks. No, sorry, it is 2 disc. Scratch all of that. Might have to edit that bit out. No, interestingly, I'm not going to edit that out because 2013 was indeed just 1 disc. Was it because it was a lot? Okay, so interestingly, 2013 was 3 hours 35 minutes. 2012 was 5 hours 17 minutes. Feels like we've been robbed. Yeah, It Was Fair. I mean, come on. This is a good thumbnail. I like this cover art. 4 hours 43, so we've gone back to 2 discs for this year. Really smart label art on this. This is the kind of thing I get geeky about, because I used to make custom covers and labels for this sort of thing. So I really appreciate the nuance in this sort of thing. So 2015, and then I've also got, this was kind of when the rebrand started. I mean, it's a shame actually, because this is only 136 minutes long, and that is the review of the 2018 World Championship. So it's either 17 or 18 that we went from this branding to, you know, the kind of tagline to just the review of the championship. Maybe Lewis was winning it every year. They just thought it was a bit like when we got to Seb and with 2013, Who Can Stop Him? And then after that, they just ran out of ideas and said, It Was Fair. Or in 2016, they did their best. I mean, well, come on, that's just nondescript. So for those reviews, so there's 8 there, is there? 2, 4, 6. Yeah, there's 8 there. There were, I think, a few duplicates which I've since got rid of, given to people or taken to charity shops. I have an idea there was a duplicate for, I think there was a duplicate for all of these, I think. 7, 8, 9, 11 and 16, but the 2 Blu-rays were DVD at least, I think. So there was 12 in there. I paid £6.54. If you'd have had them all 50p at a charity shop, you would have paid more. So I got an absolute steal for that. Now, the reason why, I don't know whether I've called this video, Why Did Letterboxd Take Down My F1 Season Review Listings, but that might be what I go for. So if you've clicked on this to learn about Letterboxd, you think, well, what's this got to do with Letterboxd? So I will explain right now. So it's story time with Letterboxd. I have a bit of a thing as a collector. I've collected games and music. You can see I've got a lot of albums behind me, CDs. I've got vinyl elsewhere. A little bit of a plug to my music channel. I've collected films. So I'll hold up one of my films that I've got handy. Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning on Blu-ray. And what I like to do with anything I collect is to catalogue it. Catalogue it somewhere that I've got it. And I really like to have the story around it. So where I bought it and all that sort of thing. So I have Discogs for the music stuff, and even for books, there's Goodreads. I can catalogue what I've got there. And I've found for films, I can catalogue what I've got on Letterboxd. I have a DVD and Blu-ray collection, which is not only very useful when you go out, to charity shops or wherever. Have I already got this on DVD? If I see a Blu-ray, can I upgrade it to Blu-ray? And have I got the DVD and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to add these season reviews. Now, for anybody who doesn't use Letterboxd or doesn't know a lot about Letterboxd is a movie rating site, if you like, kind of the Facebook for films. So you can put that you've watched a film on there. You can put your reviews, and I really, really like Letterboxd. Really, really like Letterboxd. A, for the social side, but B, for the cataloguing side as well. I really enjoy that sort of thing. On that website, you can't have TV shows, which is fair enough. It's a completely film website, but there are some grey areas towards that in that you can have... I think you can have short TV series, so if you have, I don't know, a 3-parter or a 4-parter, you can have that on there. So, for instance, the Brawn documentary that Keanu Reeves did a few years ago, that's on there. And thinking about some of my other interests, Martin Clunes did a 3-part series called Manhunt, that's on there. And there are some music concerts on there, but then there aren't some other music concerts on there, which is a totally different discussion entirely. So it's a grey area kind of thing. But I thought these F1 season reviews, they're not TV series, they are films, movies in their own right. So I went about adding some of these. There were 1 or 2 already on there, and I spent a hell of a lot of time adding these. It's not a quick thing to do to add these to Letterboxd, but you know what? I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't complain about doing a minute of it. It probably took a good weekend of my time to add these, and then I took other years. I think I did 97, 98, 99, and then I kind of tidied, so Letterboxd reads from the movie database or the movie DB, so I tidied that up, and there were some of I was talking about the reissues earlier, so there were some of the reissue ones, and maybe naively I thought they're exactly the same as these ones that I've showed here, so, they're duplicates, so I'll tidy all that up, and did that fine, and I made a list of F1 season reviews on Letterboxd, and I got 5 likes on that list, so it's not thousands of people, but clearly somebody was interested. And there's a list of about 1,000 items, 1,300 items by a chap called Evan, which is racing and motorsport. Every film and documentary on Letterboxd that is about or tangentially involves motor racing, mostly auto and motorcycle racing, but includes some boat and plane racing, which is a great database for all of this stuff. So you've got the expected stuff that you've got, if you like. You've got the Senna film, you've got Rush, you've got Grand Prix. Is Steve McQueen in that? Or am I making that up? No. Or maybe Steve McQueen was in the Le Mans film. Yes, he was in the Le Mans film, so I'm getting that mixed up for good reason. The Grand Prix film, which some of the F1 drivers take... I'm sure, do they have a cameo in that? Yeah, Graham Hill's in that film. So is Phil Hill. So there are some cameos in that. I haven't watched that either. That's a film I'd quite like to watch at some stage. But there's loads of stuff on here. So you've got the Ferrari film, Ford versus Ferrari, and then you've got some documentaries on here. You've got Hunt versus Lauda, F1's greatest rivals, and Villeneuve Pironi, Racing's Untold Tragedy. That's another one I've got recorded on Sky that I haven't watched. And there's loads of this stuff, and that's a great kind of directory, and there's 1,200 people who have got that list logged. So there's clearly some interest in this kind of thing, and that's actually one of my massive passions, and I don't necessarily think this discussion is the right video to go into that in totality, but that is keeping lost media and stuff that people maybe don't care about so much anymore, but there is a small community, keeping that alive. And I think Letterboxd is a great way to do that, because ultimately, if I take... Let's see what I can take from here. Let's take it. It's not a great example, but let's take this. So this was another one I added. Murray Walker's Top 10 F1 Greats. So I think Murray Walker did quite a few of these in the early 2000s. God rest the great man's soul. Of compilations or videos. Like Jeremy Clarkson used to do them outside of Top Gear as well. And he'd talk about his Top 10 F1 Greats in this one. And, alright, there's one person who's watched it. And actually... that is a gent called Callum Robertson, so if by any fluke Callum's watching this, hello. I added this, I think, to the Letterboxd site. If it wasn't me, I'll shut up, but no, it actually wasn't me. So somebody else added it, which is great. So it's not just me who's doing this. And I feel like having it on Letterboxd gives a community. The whole idea of Letterboxd for me is to have a community and going, who else has watched it, and to spark conversations. So, more niche stuff like this, I think, really deserves its place on Letterboxd. So, kind of getting back to the story after the tangent, added them all on, asked Evan if he could add them to his list because it seemed, worthwhile to add them to the list. And I've got a couple of the MotoGP season reviews as well, so I added those on Letterboxd, a couple of the Murray Walker things. I think I added the history of motor racing things on here. In fact, so I'm going to search for those because I do wonder if they're still on here because the MotoGP ones are still there. But the F1 ones, unfortunately, have all gone. So, yeah, the 50s and 60s history of motor racing documentaries are still here. And I'm so pleased this might have actually been on here beforehand. I think it was. So the 60s one, at least, was on one here beforehand, right? And that film is on 44 different lists. So there's clearly people who are interested in this sort of thing. So great, they're on those lists. Happy days, hunky-dory, all that sort of thing. And then I went on Letterboxd one day, opened up that list, which is still there. I haven't deleted it, in the hope that maybe one day these will possibly be reintegrated back on Letterboxd. And to my horror, I went from this list having 20 items to nil. They weren't on Letterboxd anymore. They'd been taken off. And honestly, at the time, I was gutted. Mostly because I had them in my DVD collection on Letterboxd, so I'd put where I'd bought them, and I really like all that nitty-gritty stuff. So those records had gone, so that was a real bummer. And they'd gone off the list, and there was other people interested, and I think the later reviews, so the 2021-22 reviews, they were on Letterboxd, then taken off, and then I reinstated them. But they'd got the same listing, so there were 30, 40 different people who'd watched them, and a couple of people had written reviews, really good reviews as well. And then they'd gone off again. Now, I don't think this is necessarily anybody's fault. I don't think anybody had gone, no, these can't be on Letterboxd again from a movie DB side, because going into the technicalities of this, actually, curiously, there is, on the 2011 one, it is now locked as a video, which is interesting. Basically, anything that's a video on the movie DB won't be added to Letterboxd, because Letterboxd is like, no, we can't add video. Now, I didn't think this had been edited since I had gone in there and done it. It looks like somebody might have done... No, I haven't actually. So maybe this one slipped through the net, but there's been no edits on this listing on the movie DB since I edited it back in April 2025. It's not like somebody's, gone in, cracked the whip and gone, Toby's made this many mistakes and they've gone. But no, they're out. So they're no longer on Letterboxd, which I think is a real crying shame. So... why take them off Letterboxd? They've gone on for some reason, whether it's an automated thing, who knows, somebody manually has took them off. But ultimately, if you're going to have a policy as a website, because I'm not taking this too seriously, because I don't think anybody should. For the end of the day, Letterboxd is a great social network. I get the whole thing of polluting these sites with crap, but ultimately I don't think these things are crap. But the MotoGP season reviews are still there. The Murray Walker videos are still there. I looked at there's some random Liverpool documentaries or season reviews on here. So if you're going to take some stuff off, then surely take the whole thing off. I get that Letterboxd isn't a TV site, but these are bespoke films. So why have they been took off? It's, what? It was just a real shame. And when you try and add them again now, it just says that they can't be added. And you know what? I don't think I can be bothered writing to Letterboxd and getting maybe a response back that almost they're more diligent about it, therefore they take off more of the stuff that's on there. I don't want to be the causer of that, but yeah, I think it's a great shame that these have gone off Letterboxd. But back to the more positive side of things, linked to this, because at one point these reviews, at least for me, were the only way really to see some of these great old races. F1's YouTube channel in the last sort of 12 months or couple of years have started to upload extended race highlights. So on the 18th of March 2025, they uploaded extended race highlights, 23-minute package from the 2006 Chinese Grand Prix. They've done, just looking at this video here, so on the right hand side you've got the US 2003, Japan 2005, and I love that sort of thing because it's with the original TV. So you've got James Allen and Martin Brundle on the 2006 one. These reviews maybe aren't as great as that because they've got the, if you like, the Ben Edwards voiceover, but they still do a very good job of showing these old races. And I would guess that all of these old races are possibly available on F1 TV, but I'm not really that bothered about subscribing to that. So there are, I think, at least a few of these extended race highlights on here. I'm going to have a look. So extended race highlights. Now, I'm not talking about current races. I'm talking about more retro races. So there's actually 50 videos on this archive, but I don't think that, yeah, that's like 2025 stuff. So, I mean, yeah, okay. Well, all right. They are old races in terms of they're not current. So 3 weeks ago, the F1 channel put up the 2025 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And 2 months ago, I mean, I haven't watched some of these, so that might be a good thing for me to binge. The 2009 Brazil Grand Prix, 2019 Singapore, 2010 Belgium, I watched that one, I really enjoyed that one. 2003 Japan. I mean, looking at this, there's quite a bit, actually, of the older stuff, but generally speaking, there's a lot of sort of 2025, but there's only 50 of these, so the F1 season reviews are kind of the best place to go to get that old stuff. But you know what? I just love mid 2000s to sort of mid 2010s F1. The kind of nostalgia of all that, and there's a great channel as well. I think it's called F1 Race Review or something along those lines. Race Day Replay. That's it. And I had kind of an idea some time ago to do a video about lost F1 circuits, that kind of thing. It didn't come to fruition, but I'm really glad I'm recording this one. And what Race Day Replay does is shows some of the post and pre-race shows that he's recorded and spends a lot of time putting time into it, so kudos to him. So I was watching some of the, to get some real nostalgia, the 2010 Korean Grand Prix. Oh, that was a real... See, I'm not going to try and go into too much of a tangent today. I can wax lyrical about the 2010 Korean Grand Prix at another point, maybe. But... So he's uploaded a post-race show, a pre-race show, a pre-quali show. I mean, this was the peak of F1 for me when BBC had they come on at 12 and the race had started at 1 o'clock or something along those lines, 50 minutes before the race. Since Sky have took over, things just haven't been as good. They haven't been as good. I think that's probably coming from a nostalgic point of view, but EJ, Jake Humphrey and David Coulthard, that was perfect. I was actually searching because, me being a huge rock music fan, I adored the intro for when Susie Perry first started in 2013 in Australia with the whole motorcycle and Back in Black. And there's a couple of those on YouTube, but it's either muted because of the copyrighted music or it's sped up. The effort that used to go into these broadcasts was excellent. So this time for me is a really special time for F1. And I just wanted to talk about these season reviews and kind of link that to the frustration of these being taken off Letterboxd, because yeah, it would be, it'd be great to log them as watched on Letterboxd and maybe do a little bit of a review and kind of smile about them on Letterboxd and go, oh, this was a great race to revisit. And I remember that, and I remember certain things, and maybe I don't remember that being a certain year. Like, something's coming to my head now about the Belgian Grand Prix where Seb Vettel ran into the side of Jenson Button. I feel like that might have been 2010, but it could have been 2011. So I have to revisit these season reviews to get a good idea for these sort of things. But these are really excellent archives, which I think are, I'll keep forever. I think because of the potential of, you might get scaremongering for stuff like disc rot and stuff like that. I think I might, which I had done with the 2007, 8, 9 ones, I might convert them to a MP4 as well, so that if anything disastrous does happen, then at least I've got them in the future. But I think especially for the likes of these two, the early 2000s ones, which are a little bit more rare, I think they're definitely worth getting. And then, stuff like this, some of the documentaries. So you've got the season reviews, but these as well, the history of motor racing from the 50s and 60s. Because let's be honest, are these documentaries really going to be made today? I don't think they are, and maybe they're going to be a bit more polished, and there's a bit of fun, isn't there, about, documentaries made this sort of time. These, I think, are, so 1996, 96 again, produced, directed and narrated by Neville Hay. And I think the other thing as well, obviously, with this era, like the 50s and the 60s, you see with the, it's really sad we've lost Murray, isn't it, over the last few years, Murray Walker, but the guys from this period aren't going to be around forever. And that's another thing with books and everything like that. There is so much that the internet can give, and that's the marvel of the internet, that you can look at, I don't know, the 1952 British Grand Prix. Let's have a look at that now. Just completely out of randomness. Who won the 1952 British Grand Prix? I have no idea. But it was a Formula 2 race, so was there not a British Grand Prix? Yes, there was. So Alberto Ascari won that. He won that by a lap. Piero Taruffi was a lap behind him at the end of that 85-lap race. The fact that information is available is brilliant, but F1 DVDs, F1 books, it's kind of lost media and stuff that if we're not careful and preserve, it will be things that get lost. And certainly to me, and hopefully to you, and I think if you've been watching for this long, is something that I care a lot about. I care a lot about it with F1. I care a lot about it with motorsport, with music. I think it's great. Obviously, if you have the rights to do so, and there's nobody who holds the rights, commercial rights, to be able to sell it, I think YouTube's a brilliant place for older documentaries. So there's stuff like The Real James Hunt I can think of that is on YouTube as a documentary. And there's even stuff, there's a Elvis documentary that then totally unrelated to F1, of course, but there's an Elvis documentary on Prime Video, free Prime Video. There was a James Bond documentary I watched quite a time ago, and I'm going to get the name of it before I finish this video because it'll do my head in else. But these kind of, in the gaming world, it's called abandonware, which means, that nobody owns it anymore. What is actually so software that's no longer for sale by conventional means or supported by the creator. So, if the copyright still exists and all that sort of thing, then it's a little bit different. Yeah, so this was the James Bond series from 1999. And again, a great documentary, which is available as a DVD, but as less people have DVDs, these things become rarer and rarer. And I find that, a real shame that people can't access the stuff. Maybe people don't care about this stuff as much as I do, possibly. But the Everything or Nothing documentary as well, the James Bond one, I found that an absolute mare to find. I had to sit and watch that on a ITV hub, which took forever because it was just advert after advert after advert, and that really, really did my head in. But I think before I get into too much of any other tangents, then I'm going to call it a day with this video. Listen, I really enjoyed recording this video. It's kind of been on the huff, so off the cuff, not on the huff. Off the cuff. So, if you've enjoyed this and enjoyed this little ramble, it would be awesome for me if you can leave a like down below. I might start doing more of these kind of off-the-cuff videos. I already make music videos and the odd film stuff, but I think sports somewhere where I can excel as well, and the likes of these reviews, or maybe talking about them once I've watched them. This YouTube channel might give me a kick up the backside to do that as well. But if you've enjoyed this, say leave a like down below. Comment as well. Have you got these season reviews? Kind of anything really to start a conversation down in the comments, and I'll be hoping to put more videos on this channel. So if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing, please make sure to subscribe down below. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope above all else that whatever season review you've got, I'm not holding them all here, but I'm holding a fair amount of them. If you've got any of these season reviews, dig them out the wardrobe and give them a watch.